Every time that a new commander is revealed for Rise of Kingdoms, everybody is itching to know just how powerful they're going to be. So today we're going to do something that we do every time that a new commander is revealed. We're going to take a look at some pre-release test results for Bai Chi to see just how powerful he might be when he does come into Rise of Kingdoms. But first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Now, how do we do pre-release testing? Well, we use a program called the Rock Murder Ball Simulator, which is made possible by a member of the community who goes by the name of Specco, and he has been making this simulator for years at this point and has refined it over and over and over again to make it as good as possible. And Specco was able to implement not only Bai Chi into the Rock Murder Ball tester, but also the brand new Pincer formation with all of the inscriptions. So today we're going to test Bai Chi with Liu Che up against a bunch of different armies here in Rise of Kingdoms, and the results are actually, they're so insane that I questioned if I should even make this video. Before we get into that, of course, if you guys want to support the Rock Murder Ball Simulator, I am not affiliated with the project in any way. I don't make any money or anything off of this, and in fact I'm not even told to promote it by Specco. I just do so because I really appreciate the project, and I hope that you guys will go ahead and give it a try. I'm gonna link his Patreon down below. I do believe that there is a limited free version as well at this point where you can use KVK 1 and 2 commanders. So if you guys just want to play around with the simulator, you can check it out on his Patreon, and also over on his Discord he does show all of his work, all of his formulas. Everything is fully transparent, so that way you guys know that he knows exactly what he's doing. And I do want to remind you guys that this is simulated results, so of course this should not dictate your investment strategy. What is most important is how does he actually perform in the game when he shows up. So by no means is this supposed to be a replacement for in-game testing or real world results. Legendary commander sculptures are hard to come by, so please wait for in-game testing before you make any big investments. One last thing, this video is sponsored by absolutely nobody. It's sponsored by 0 people, but I do have a second channel link down below where I talk about gaming news, tech stuff, and other topics you'll probably enjoy if you're over the age of 20 and a man. Would love if you could sub over there. I really appreciate it. Okay, with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into how exactly did I test the Liu Che behind Bai Chi here in the Murder Ball tester. So let me go ahead and explain what we did here. We have Bai Chi Liu Che is the green army, which is everything on the right hand side of the simulator here. You'll see that on both sides of the simulator we have a 7/7 rune. That's what this attack and defense buff is. For the left hand side, which is the Huo with King Arthur, they have a 5% skill damage bonus because of Twilight Falls, and for me I put a 5% health city skin for the Bai Chi Liu Che because obviously they don't need the skill damage, and most players do not have a Zenith of Power skin. Maybe they have the 10% defense from the KVK shop, but I did a 5% health city skin. You can change that if you want. We have the Bai Chi Liu Che running the France civilization because they don't get any benefit really from Ottoman besides the march speed, and so we chose France here for the extra base health and the 3% health to all troop types. For the left hand side and for basically every other troop type unless otherwise specified, we did Ottoman Empire. Both sides have a defense item used. We also have the VIP 17 to 18 for both. We also assumed a troop capacity or troop count of 350,000 on both sides, so that is obviously the VIP level plus a 50% expansion and a little bit of KVK tech. We also have, speaking of KVK tech, the 40% all damage bonus from just being in the KVK map. We also have the 29% attack on both sides. This is some amount of KVK tech but not max tech. Same thing with the all damage. We have 4% all damage from KVK tech. That is not max tech because again a lot of you guys watching are not going to be max tech players. You'll see here that we have 8% attack, defense, and health on both sides. For the armaments, again this is just an average. Some of you are gonna have better armaments, some of you are gonna have worse armaments. You can let me know in the comments if this is a fair stat distribution or if I should go lower or higher. Both sides have full iconics and everything, and as you can see we have the full legendary set on both sides. We have the legendary KVK helmet and weapon on both sides, and then basically what you would argue is best in slot for everything else with the horn and ring on both sides. Once again, you see the talent builds over here as well. This is the same talent build I used for the entirety of testing for Bai Chi primary, and where there was a skill tree involved I would get Feral Nature over here on the Huo. So the last thing we have to talk about is formations and inscriptions. Obviously I chose the proper formation depending on the army that we were testing. Most armies using the wedge formation of course, and I threw Hunter on everybody who used the wedge formation, and for the Bai Chi Liu Che we used the Pincer formation with Toppler. Now the reason that I didn't test with any of the other inscriptions is because I think that for most players, you might not have a ton of inscriptions, and the easiest to obtain legendary inscription is going to be the one that is on the book, because, or the scroll I should say, because that's the one you get from the KVK shop. So that's the only one that is kind of a guaranteed acquisition. Of course, you could argue that there is the ability to get the one from the superior shop. This one's called Airtight. This is for the legendary banner. Of course, you could apply that to any of them like balanced or invincible, right? But because it costs 8 inscription shards, I know a lot of people do not have that much, and so therefore I did not add that here. Okay, with all of that being said, now that you guys know how I went ahead and did the testing, what we did was 7 rounds of 1v1 fights. Okay, so we would run the test 7 times up against the same army, and then we would see the results. One of the cool new features of the battle sim, or of the murder ball tester I should say, is that there is now a KP ratio, which I'm going to move over here to show you. It will literally show you, just like in battle reports, on the left hand side of your battle report, it'll show you a percentage, right? So whether you're getting close to 100% or you get like the superb, superior, whatever, you get the 900% reports, right? This will literally show you the percent trade on both sides, which is a really cool new implementation. And with all of that out of the way, let's jump into the battle reports here. The first thing that I tested up against was a Zhuge Liang with Herman, and this is because I wanted to just throw Bai Chi Liu Che up against what would be one of the toughest opponents right off the bat, which is archers. Of course, archers counter infantry, or at least I should say they do allegedly, because as you can see here, we have 50,000 sev wounds for the archers, 28,000 sev wounds for the Bai Chi Liu Che, with 113,000 units remaining. If I go ahead and jump through these battle reports, you'll see a similar trend across the board here. Every single battle report for the Bai Chi Liu Che is a victory. You'll see here that is an 0 and 7, right? Remember, the green side is the Bai Chi Liu Che, so they went 0 and 7 against Bai Chi Liu Che, and it was not even close. It was a blowout every single time. There was a ridiculous amount of units remaining every single time. And I know what you're thinking, that Zhuge Liang Herman is not really a dueling march because it is a double AoE march, and the answer to that is true, but so is Bai Chi Liu Che. This is not really a dueling march, it is a double AoE march, and so I feel like that kind of cancels those two benefits out, right? Like, we're ignoring that on both sides here. And so as we can see, this is a really strong starting point for Bai Chi from these test results. So now I thought, okay, well, if Zhuge Liang Herman can't even win a single time against Bai Chi Liu Che, maybe it's because the damage factor for both of these commanders is higher than the damage factor for both of these commanders, right? I think that's a perfectly reasonable assumption to make. If you're just pumping out more damage on every skill cycle, you're probably going to win, right? So I thought, okay, well, let's go ahead and replace the Herman Prime with a Shajar, right? We'll do Shajar primary with Zhuge Liang as the secondary. And let's jump right into the results here. 86,000 remaining for the Bai Chi Liu Che. It is 31,000 sev wounds on the infantry side, almost 52,000 sev wounds for the Shajar Zhuge Liang. So let's go ahead and go through these reports here one by one. Here we have almost 30,000 sev wounds for the infantry, almost 53,000 sev wounds for the Shajar Zhuge Liang, almost 100k remaining here. Moving on to the next report, we have 74,000 remaining for the infantry, 112,000 remaining for infantry, 67,000 remaining for infantry, 65,000 remaining for infantry, and almost 80,000 remaining for the infantry. So once again, we see Bai Chi Liu Che sweep probably the single strongest like dueling archer march in a 7-0 victory. And again, it's really not even close across the board. So this kind of set the stage for me to wonder, like, okay, is this video even worth making? Because what could possibly counter this if not archers, right? Like, archers are supposed to counter them. Shajar is the single hardest hitting archer in the game right now, so what could I possibly do next? Well, I figured King Arthur is arguably the strongest commander in the game right now, so let's go ahead and put him behind Huo and see just how well they do. And I will be the first to tell you that these, again, I warned you, these results are insane. So again, 107,000 remaining for Bai Chi Liu Che, 29k sev wounds to 50k sev wounds for the cavalry. Moving on to the next report, 127k remaining. Then we have 105k remaining for the infantry, 65k remaining for infantry, 94k remaining for infantry, 117,000 remaining for infantry, and 52k remaining for infantry. So once again, the single best cavalry march in the game just got 7-0 swept by the Bai Chi Liu Che. So things are looking really good for Bai Chi and really bad for everyone else. Now let me just be honest with you guys, and I'm just gonna pause here for a second to say a couple of things. Okay, first of all, there is a reason why the Bai Chi keeps winning, and we will talk about that later. simulator. It is actually really interesting to watch these test results play out in this simulator, so we will address the reason for these results in just a minute. But I do want to remind you guys that if you could drop a quick thumbs up on the video, it really helps out a ton, and subscribe if you haven't. It's one quick second, helps this video out in the algorithm, and I really do appreciate you guys. Even if you don't do that, thank you for watching. But let's jump into some more reports, and then later we'll talk about why the Baichi keeps winning here, because it's kind of an interesting thing that's happening. Just to be thorough, I decided, okay, let's do the Delta formation here with the King Arthur primary. We did William Wallace as the secondary. Of course, we used the legendary inscription, the equivalent legendary inscription over there, and we also gave them a little bit of health and took away the Ottoman Empire. Looking at the reports, 187k remaining here. This is not a surprise to me. 185k remaining, 172k remaining, 197 remaining, 194 remaining, 155 remaining, and 180 remaining for the infantry. So again, a 7-0 sweep. This was the worst performance so far by the enemies here in the Arthur William. This is obviously because the Arthur William it's not a dueling march, right? Like, let's be real, but I wanted to just test it so that way people don't comment down below that I forgot to test it. I did not forget to test it. Now we swapped out the William for the Philip here, and we also made sure that we removed Ottoman Empire. We removed the 5% skill damage bonus, all that stuff, and it's gonna come as no surprise to you guys, right? We're gonna get a 7-0 sweep once again here for the Baichi Liu Che. These reports were slightly better than the William, but all in all, a 7-0 sweep once again. So okay, now let's go ahead and test the Huo Nevsky, because we moved back to the wedge formation, we moved back to Ottoman Empire, we moved back to using the Twilight Falls city skin, and I thought, okay, if anyone can beat him, maybe it is this double single target march that is known for dueling, right? It is Huo and Nevsky, and you'll see here that it did perform better than the Arthur pairings, but it just lost 7-0. Okay, so all right, things are looking real good for Baichi, and this does not paint the full picture. Let me just be abundantly clear. Okay, if you're thinking, wow, Baichi is broken, there is a reason why he keeps winning, so stay with me here. I just want to go through more results for you guys. Next up, I tested against the Liu Che Philip. Okay, so as you can see here, they are both using the pincer formation. Okay, Liu Che Philip once again getting 7-0 swept by the Baichi Liu Che. This is once again no surprise, because the Liu Che Philip is not a dueling march, right? So now we're going to go ahead and test the CPO behind the Ragnar Prime, and as you can see, we have Baichi Liu Che with 138k remaining, 138k, 161, 135. You can see I started breezing through these reports because it was insane. Everyone was losing, everyone's getting 7-0 swept. That's it. Now I did test some other pairs like William Wallace with Liu Che, and to be fair, that was the only one that tied 2 out of the 7, but it got crushed on the other 5. I just was looking through my footage. Apparently I didn't record that one, but the point is, and I think you get the point at this point, right? Like there's nothing that is coming even close to the Baichi Liu Che. So let's answer the question why, right? Like, why is this march just absolutely stomping every single thing in its path with basically no resistance, right? Allow me to illustrate with a live result here with the Baichi Liu Che up against the Huo King Arthur. What we're going to notice here is that for a lot of these results, the first army to hit yellow was a lot of times the Baichi Liu Che, right? This is not that ridiculous. I think that there's not that many tanky stats on the Baichi Liu Che, so it would make sense that a more tanky march such as the Huo Arthur, who has a ton of defense from the Huo, a little bit of health from the Arthur, and also both of these commanders, let's remember, hit harder than both of these commanders in a 1v1 duel, right? Not only do we have a crazy amount of skill damage bonus on this army, especially for the King Arthur, but King Arthur hits for 2800 and Huo hits for 2700, where here we have 2400 and 2250, right? So it would make sense that this army would perform really well in a duel, right? And it does. But what you'll notice here is that even though the kill trade is in favor of the red march, which is the Huo, right? That's the Huo King Arthur. What we'll see as we start to proceed here is that the Baichi Liu Che will now catch up in the second half of the battle, and this is not that surprising if you watched my videos or my most recent video about Bai Chi, where I talk about my sort of concerns about his kit. And my concern was that he is going to be extremely good at hitting weaker marches, especially the longer the battle goes on. Let's take a closer look with the William Wallace Liu Che. We'll see which of these armies ends up on yellow first. The answer is the Bai Chi Liu Che. And so what we can see here is that around the halfway point, the William Wallace Liu Che is actually winning. You have 137% kill point ratio. And then as we proceed the battle, let's see if it flips it around. Now remember, the William Wallace Liu Che, from my experience, was the only one that actually tied the Bai Chi Liu Che. And so let's see if we can replicate that here once again. And you'll see right at the end here, right at the end, the Bai Chi Liu Che pulls out the victory, right? It's 102. If we take a look here, slightly more sub wounds for the William Wallace Liu Che. So what we can notice here is that even with the Shijar Zhuge Liang, let's see which of these commander pairs ends up on yellow first. And this is, okay, surprisingly, it's the Shijar Zhuge Liang. Let's try that one more time. Let's see if we have any different results. I know there's a lot of RNG involved here, and it looks like once again Shijar Zhuge Liang. So okay, that's kind of embarrassing. But the point that I'm making here is that in fights to the death and in battles where Bai Chi is fighting for a long period of time, he's going to stack those malice stacks a ton, right? We talked about that in my video, and he has a lot of this bonus smite damage that occurs. He also stacks extra smite damage for himself as he's losing units. And so, you know, he's stacking these things a lot more under that 50% mark. And then especially when we get the expertise bonuses down here, this is really where the duels start to flip in the instances where Bai Chi is actually kind of neck and neck. So that's the first thing to take into account. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that Bai Chi Liu Che still claps a lot of these armies. I mean, like you just saw, it wasn't always the case that he was first to yellow, right? But in the cases where he would eventually turn it around in that second 50%. And I think that's why he 7-0 swept basically everybody that I threw him up against, because in the second half of the duel is where he does eventually catch up, whereas a lot of other commanders don't have those types of bonuses that happen later on in the battle. And I think, you know, if you are going in and out of combat like most players do for open field fighting, you might not get a lot of those benefits that you are getting in this. You know, we're basically testing in a vacuum, right? We're testing a perfect 1v1 scenario, which is never how things actually play out in the game. So what I want to be very clear here is that, first of all, I think that our initial judgment of Bai Chi was accurate, because first of all, he is hitting like a truck. I mean, there's no way around it. He just deals an insane amount of damage. But also, I think he is going to be a slow burn commander who does benefit from targeting those yellow and red marches, and you'll get a disproportionately high return for hitting those weaker marches as well, which is a good news for people who like to fight to the death and who like to just go all in. And I think that you're going to get a lot of value out of that. But I do think your mileage may vary here with Bai Chi. If you are, you know, not targeting those red and yellow marches, there may be instances where you might not feel like he's performing super well because he just wasn't able to get to his maximum velocity and really stack as many malice stacks as you would like to get a lot of the benefits out of this bonus smite damage, for example. That's not to say that the first and second skills alone won't make him perform insanely well. And there's another secret sauce to the Bai Chi kit, and that is the new pincer formation. This is arguably, I know a lot of people have been talking about this and I haven't made a dedicated video, but I will address it here. This might be the strongest formation in the game right now, at least for open field PvP, because 10% smite damage is insane when you consider that a lot of your damage is going to come from the active skill on Bai Chi and the active skill on Liu Che. Both of those just got a 10% bonus, whereas previously we would only get a 5% bonus from the arch formation. And on top of that, throughout this entire video, we've been using the toppler inscription here on the scroll, and this gives you not only an additional 5% bonus to smite damage, but now whenever you deal smite damage, the target troop takes 20% increased smite damage for the next 3 seconds, which means your Liu Che is now hitting them and they're taking 20% more damage from that already powerful active skill. And it looks like you can spread this AoE. Right now I haven't done any testing myself, but you can trigger multiple times in a single second, up to 5 times, and Bai Chi is hitting 5 targets, right? So he ideally should be able to trigger this all 5 times before it hits that 5-second cooldown. But really, like, you get this bonus from Bai Chi for Liu Che, and then the cooldown is over by the next time that the active skill cycle comes around. Now you could possibly trigger this from an instant proc on Liu Che or Bai Chi's malice stacks. That's, you know, a topic for a deeper dive, but the point is the pincer formation is really strong, and that really just multiplies or amplifies the power of Bai Chi Liu Che. And so I think there's a lot of things working here in unison that make these reports just absolutely busted, right? The reports are absolutely busted. I don't think I've ever seen in all my years of doing these pre-release tests, I don't think I've ever seen a commander 7-0 sweep or 5-0 sweep everything else in the entire game. Like, that is actually insane, and I think it's because of a few factors. First of all, again, the pincer formation, and second of all, the way Bai Chi's kit is built, he does get a lot of advantages in the second half, which you really won't see that much of in actual open PvP fighting. We talked more in depth about that, like I said in my recent video where I talked about Bai Chi possibly being overhyped. So I just wanted to give you guys some context to these results. Yes, he is the first ever to 7-0 sweep everything in the game, which is insane. That's a really good sign for him. He looks really promising, but I do just want to give you guys that nuance that, like, you're not probably going to be fighting to the death in most scenarios unless you're a Giga Whale who's just sad facing all the time, which is fine. A lot of players will be doing that, and I think even, you know, this is not even to take into account all the other legendary inscriptions on the pincer formation, which are all really strong, right? So like, this wasn't even Bai Chi's best case scenario, which is kind of insane. So I wanted to just make this video for you guys to let you know that Bai Chi, you know, at pre-release results are just the strongest we've ever seen any commander pair, which is kind of wild. And that was in a dueling scenario where he doesn't even shine. He's really meant for, you know, AoE, but also, like, take all of this with a grain of salt, because again, this is vacuum testing, perfect case scenario, fighting to the death. A lot of this stuff is not going to be replicated in real world fighting. So I want to be very clear with you guys. I know there's going to be people who don't make it this far into the video who've already commented something stupid like that. So I'm just here to let you know that, like, I know that, right? I know that, but even still, I know a lot of people have been asking me how he performs in the battle sim. And so I wanted to bring this video to you guys to let you know that he's performing really well. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below about these Bai Chi results. Do they have you excited? Do they have you nervous about the power of infantry coming into the game? Or do you think that all of this is a wash? It's pointless. It's not useful data because we're just gonna have to wait and see how he actually performs in the game. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about all of that. And while you're down there, make sure you drop a thumbs up on the video. It really helps out the channel a ton. It helps get this video out into the YouTube algorithm so other Rise of Kingdoms players might see it. And while you're down there, consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell to be notified the next time I upload a Rise of Kingdoms video. And like I said before, if you want to support Specco, his links are going to be in the description below. And with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I will talk to you guys again soon. Peace.